From the farthest reaches of the galaxy, the Midwest, you're watching Beyond the Blast Doors live.
It's a good day to be a Star Wars fan. Episode 74 of Beyond the Blast Doors live on a Sunday on YouTube. David Amilati with you, Jesse Buck. Jesse is back.
I'm back.
We could talk about Fallen Order and we could talk about The Mandalorian, but we'll just talk about Jesse being back for the next hour. How does it feel to be alive, man? We thought you were dead.
Definitely not dead, but definitely doing a way better health-wise. Hernia surgery went spot on, perfect, healing up nicely.
It was really cool. In the comments section, you might have noticed that I was kind of flying solo for the last couple of weeks, and people in the comments asking where Jesse was or how he was doing, people following your status, so definitely loved, man, and glad to have you back on a show where we're talking about the Star Wars Fandom United, and I mentioned it's the two of us here. Mm-hmm. We have Jordan not running the show this week from remote, from hundreds of miles away. He's 5 feet over to my right, and we're excited that Jordan's with us too. So we have most of the BTBD crew here with us today. David is traveling because apparently the Boy Scouts pay pretty well, and he's on like some beach or something. So
sipping out of coconuts or something.
Yeah, he'll be back at some point. But we really are in a time where Star Wars fandom is united. You have Jedi Fallen Order and the first two episodes of The Mandalorian drop on Disney Plus within just days apart. And at first, everyone is overjoyed. And then you got some people, throwing some jabs in there. We'll get talking about that later. But we first off want to say thank you so much for joining us to talk Star Wars for about the next hour or so. Really excited about our special guest today, RichBoyJhae. He is a Lego Star Wars MOC builder on YouTube, and the scale of his work is incredible. He's done Vardos. He's doing Starkiller Base right now. He has a MOC of the Razor Crest from The Mandalorian. So we're going to talk to him about the different models he does, how he goes about designing those builds, just getting the idea of going like, well, I like that scene, so I'm going to make that into Lego. Really fascinating stuff. We're talking about Jedi Fallen Order. We're talking about The Mandalorian. If we have time, I do want to talk a little bit about J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson. They've been in the headlines recently. J.J. talking about risk when it comes to how he approached Episode 9 and how he credits Rian Johnson and the risks he took with The Last Jedi. And then I think Rian Johnson getting some unfair hate. He gets a lot of positive and I think a lot of negative for The Last Jedi, but he's basically calling people out for not liking the diversity in Star Wars in today's era. And it's like, how do you not support what Rian Johnson is saying? So if we have time, we'll touch on that. But if not, we just mentioned it here, so that's great. Before we move along, we want to remind you the new and improved BeyondTheBlastDoors.com is available for you. And on there right now is a debut article from Jesse Stillman. We have a second Jesse now on our crew. He has agreed to join us on BeyondTheBlastDoors.com. He has an in-depth review of episodes 1 and 2 of The Mandalorian. They are spoiler-filled. So be warned. Spoiler review there on BeyondTheBlastDoors.com. But you can go on there. You can actually find the latest episode of Beyond the Blast Doors live, streaming Star Wars, our sister show here on our YouTube channel that goes live every Friday night, 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. It's been a great show so far. First two episodes, we had Anthony Bresnikan from Vanity Fair to help us kick things off. Then we had Clayton Sindell of ABC News with us Friday night. So it was a lot of fun. I almost said last night. Today is Sunday. I have to remember that. So that is for you there. Now, if this is the first time that you are catching Beyond the Blast Doors live here on a Sunday morning, we will remind you that there's a few ways that you can catch us. And as always, you can catch us live on YouTube, 11 a.m. Central on Sunday. But you can also get us on the Rewind, same place on the YouTube channel. But we're also available on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud. Hey, you know what? While you're at it, go find us on Patreon and consider joining our Patreon for as low as $2. Bonuses every week. Last week we had an exclusive episode that we dropped a couple days early for the Patreons, just so that we could talk about the Mandalorian first episode. So a lot of fun there. Oh boy. People in live chat already hanging out here on a Sunday morning. Really glad that you're with us. Going to shout out Frammy, Neil Lowry, the most positive person in the Star Wars fandom on social media, without a doubt. You got 2Med2, Bake the Snake, White Nova joins us as well. So that live chat is hopping. Be sure that you take the time right now to hit that share button on this episode. Put this on your Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever. Let's expand our Star Wars conversation. And let's go ahead and talk about our first topic here on a Sunday, episode 74 of Beyond the Blast Doors. Jedi Fallen Order drops. And literally the moment Jordan played the slate, Jesse went erect, 3 inches, his back straightened up. He is ready to talk about this game.
Prepping.
And, we know the basic concept of this video game, Jesse. Mm-hmm. This is story focused, campaign focused, a Jedi who escapes Order 66, and we have the Ninth Sister, and we have the Second Sister, and we have all these new characters and characters brought from the past, and we get into this, and it seems overwhelmingly people are really pleased. Jesse, you've played for about 4 hours now,
Yep.
and how does this compare? Can you compare it to Battlefront 1 and 2? They're both, these are all EA games. How does it compare to what we've gotten here recently?
There was a lot of words are hard to
skepticism.
Skepticism. Thank you.
It's a word. You said it right.
Because EA has taken a lot of flack the last few years over the Star Wars franchise when it comes to video gaming. Battlefront 2015 definitely, I want to say, was kind of a mixed review. I played a lot of it. I enjoyed it for the most part. It had its downsides. Battlefront 2017, obviously, you had the whole microtransaction fiasco, and there was a whole PR issue that came with that. And now Battlefront 2 is in a good place. Now, graphically speaking, I would actually say there's some really nice improvements with Fallen Order.
Okay.
Visually, this is probably my favorite game of the year.
Really?
Yes. Just the environments, the overall feel. It really does make you feel like you're definitely playing a Star Wars game. The storyline, I'm not going to say anything about the storyline because if you haven't played it yet, which you should be playing it.
Don't yell at me, Jesse. I don't appreciate that. Sometimes it's money.
It's fantastic. It definitely fits into the overall puzzle of the universe. All the characters that I've encountered so far are very much enjoyable, and they're in depth, and you really do. You get a sense that there's adventure, a sense of adventure, but there's sadness in there too, sadness in a good way in storytelling.
I've seen some of the gameplay, and it's apparently you can swim at 90 miles an hour. Do you know anything about this?
No.
I'm watching this video, and Cal is swimming at 90 miles an hour, and I'm like, how is this a new a force ability that we didn't know about? You have force jump, now you have force swim.
A lot of people were, were again skeptical about this game because at E3 they didn't really show all that much as far as gameplay trailers or anything, or I guess you had the leveling system. It's all solid, through and through. This is a solid game, and I think this really took a lot of people by surprise because again, there's a lot of negativity surrounding EA. A lot of people doubt this, this publisher. But I also want to point out that EA is just the publisher. Respawn is who made this game.
That's right.
And
important clarification to make.
You got to remember is that these people put a lot of time and effort into these games, and even Battlefront 2, the single player mode, fantastic. It was a little short, but overall it was a fantastic story. There were some Easter eggs that we did see in The Last Jedi.
What do you take when you're watching? When not watching, but you're playing. I mean, you are watching. It's very cinematic. Jedi Fallen Order. How do you respond to the fact that you're getting some characters also from the comics? I mean, you're talking about the one Inquisitor we get from Charles Soule's Darth Vader run. Is it pretty cool to?
It's nice tie-ins. Everything. It's just wow. This just molds together seamlessly, and that's what I think is surprising. My Twitter feed is just filled with a bunch of streamers that are playing this, and they are legit saying Game of the Year. All the reviews I'm seeing, this is getting high 9, 9s, 9.2s, 9.5s out of 10. And this is just kind of blowing people's mind out, it's just wow, we were kind of expecting something worse. And I'm glad that, we're getting this game that's basically a gem for this year as far as gaming goes. But this is definitely a win for Star Wars as far as games, because it's been rough for the last 5 years.
Do you with the lightsaber play? I've seen some people online commentating that they kind of wish that these mechanics were available for Force Unleashed. I don't. Yeah, I mean, sure, you can wish that all you want, but that game was made in a different era, and at the time, Force Unleashed was a revolutionary video game in its own right. So, talk about the saber mechanics here in Fallen Order. Why do they work so well?
Okay, honestly, the saber mechanics, 2 different ball games. They are no way similar at all. Where Force Unleashed, you had some different combos that you could pull off, which had its merits here. In Jedi Fallen Order, you actually have to put a little bit more thought and critical thinking into combat. You can't just run up to an opponent and just start swinging your lightsaber and win. Okay, these like I'm playing right now on normal, and there's been a few times I've gotten my butt kicked, and I'm diehard gamer, as you know. So, and I'm hearing like I've been watching people play this game on the hardest difficulties, which I would actually say if you're playing it on those harder difficulties, it would be almost comparable to Dark Souls, which is a very, very difficult game.
Well, yeah.
Rage-inducing.
Well, yeah, and you mentioned that, right? Because if there's a complaint of this game that I've seen, it is its difficulty level that you can die a lot in this game.
It's not all that punishing though, and then that's the interesting thing. So when you die, you accumulate experience. So as you make your way back, to that opponent, if you die to that opponent, you'll lose your experience. Okay. Now, you don't necessarily have to go back. Maybe you're just like, well, maybe I need to be stronger, kind of thing. But if you do decide to try that again, you can run you can kind of disengage. There are like certain barriers within the game that I've discovered. I'll just say one opponent kind of kicked my butt for like 4 rounds until I kind of figured out, what its attacks were, its special attacks.
Okay.
So I was able to run back. When you hit that opponent again, you regain all your lost experience from that opponent. So if you do end up, taking this down, you have all your stuff back, or you can run in and tag it and run as fast as you can away from it and move on to maybe a different area of the map. And that's nice too. So, I mean, you're not really losing out on anything. Experience is very quick too. And there's also a lot of like neat little implications. BD1 he is probably my favorite droid right now. He's just really entertaining. But he sees things and he'll scan it, and you'll get a little bit of like lore dialogue or like a codex that you find in other games. Other gameplay things that, if you've played the Uncharted series, there's gameplay mechanics that are reminiscent of that, or like Assassin's Creed. So you kind of combine that with maybe a little bit of an easier version of like like Dark Souls, dodging combat. And it just melds together really nicely. You get this great story, and visually, every planet that I've been to has just been this is what I want to see in future games.
You played for 4 hours. How much more gameplay do you think you have left in this story?
There's a lot.
There is. So this is
there's
significantly
so much
more than what we got with Battlefront 2.
Yeah,
Again, love the story, just not long enough for some.
I would estimate, if you're just diehard, just kind of trying to fly through it, you can maybe do it in 8 to 9 hours.
Well, that still is...
That's significantly way longer than Battlefront 2's story. But,
it took me like 13 hours to beat Battlefront 2, but maybe I'm just terrible at video games.
There's an exploration factor of every planet, every area, and I strongly encourage you, as you're playing this, explore your surroundings, and you actually have to go back and forth between some of these planets too.
How are you enjoying Jedi Fallen Order? Are you playing the game right now? You want to make sure you let us know down in the live chat right now, and we will get to your thoughts on the game here momentarily. But no, it's fun to have you back, Jesse, talking about video games. Jedi Fallen Order is definitely making a lot of fans happy. Also, The Mandalorian. We're going to talk about The Mandalorian in just a couple of minutes, but I want to dive into the live chat, and this is going to buy us a little time because we are going to have Jalen join us here momentarily here on Beyond the Blast Doors. You are listening to episode 74 of Beyond the Blast Doors on a Sunday morning, and the live chat is just going crazy right now. It seems like overall that everyone is pretty excited about the game. Framey says, it's an interesting observation about the game dying over and over. It is awfully frustrating, but at least the payoff, and not the payoff, but at least you aren't taken back so far in the story like you mentioned. There's some games where you could die and you have to go back and redo, 5, 10, 15 minutes of story. So it's nice that you're not punished so bad. But yeah, I am seeing on social media quite a bit that people are frustrated of how difficult the game is. But maybe that's good. I mean, there was a lot of pressure on this video game being exceptional because EA had they let fans down in a way with the first Battlefront. Then Battlefront 2 had a great campaign, but then you still had to buy all this stuff to play online multiplayer, unlock these things, and that seemed silly. And so, as you mentioned, this is technically Respawn's game that EA is putting out there, but maybe this is the formula you need to follow when doing video games for Star Wars now. I mean, I've been someone very consistent saying I wish they would bring back LucasArts, get us back to the time where we were getting multiple games a year. They were fun. I mean, man, gosh, remember when we were getting Jedi Academies and Jedi Outcasts? And all this. That was such a rich time, a great time to be a video game player here for Star Wars. So thanks for everybody commenting down in the chat. 2med2 says, I'm about to start my campaign right after this. So that's pretty cool. Starting his Sunday with Beyond the Blast Doors live show, and then he continues his day with Jedi Fallen Order. It sounds like you could spend the rest of your day playing the video game.
That's what I'm doing.
And you won't beat it. Playing on PC. He's actually going to be streaming that. Might have to check that live stream out here in a little bit. Well, let's go on to our very special guest here on this Sunday morning. And this is really exciting for us because RichBoyJhae is a Lego Star Wars MOC builder on YouTube. I've been following this guy for, I want to say, at least a year and a half now. And he does incredible projects. He has done Vardos from Battlefront 2. Vardos. I always say Vardos, but it's Vardos. He's also working on right now Star Killer Base, I believe. And he just put out there, just for fun, just for giggles, he did a mock of the start of the Razor Crest from The Mandalorian. So we're going to talk about all these things and more. But joining us now on Beyond the Blast Doors live on a Sunday, please welcome Mr. RichBoyJhae. RichBoyJhae, how you doing, sir?
I'm great, man. So glad to be on.
It's so glad to have you, and here on a Sunday. And first things first, before we dive into the mocks that I just got done listing off for those joining us here for our live Star Wars conversation, can we just talk about the fact that we're now getting a list of rumored sets for 2020, and there seems to be a lot of mixed viewpoints on what this list shows. Maybe not as many more detailed sets. I guess that's one way of putting it. But have you seen this? You have seen this list before. I can read off what is on the list for our viewers. But what's your initial take on this rumored list? And that's all it is right now, is this rumored speculation.
Honestly, the biggest takeaway that I had from it is where are the Fallen Order sets? Like we just had Triple Force Friday, right? This big marketing push for Episode 9, The Mandalorian, and supposedly Fallen Order, but Lego's totally missed out on that. Still nothing about Fallen Order in terms of the sets we got for Triple Force Friday, or the sets coming forward for the next year. So I'm still wondering, like, are we going to get a third component to Triple Force Friday ever with Lego, or are they kind of silently not really deal with that?
And Jedi Fallen Order, and Jalen, it does sound like your mic dropped a little bit. I don't know if you bumped it, but it does sound like there is an opportunity for more Jedi Fallen Order Lego sets here in the near future. I mean, remember Battlefront 2? We got that the battle pack with we got Gina Gavankar with that squad, and so we had that battle pack, so that was nice. So Lego was paying attention, but yeah, we haven't had a large set knock us on our feet, even with Battlefront 2, and especially here with Last Jedi. I want to go ahead and read off the list real quick. Several microfighters, some battle packs here, but this is a rumored list. Okay, this is all speculation. We want to be very clear on this, but microfighters Y-wing, Kylo Ren's TIE shuttle, Bantha and T-16 Skyhopper First Bantha. Those are all microfighter sets. A First Order Trooper battle pack. A Mandalorian battle pack, which is exciting because all we have so far is the ATST Raider, and no one has seen that vehicle yet in footage. We have a Snow Speeder. We have the Dulan Mustafar at 208 pieces. Obi-Wan's Hut on Tatooine at 200 pieces. Another Luke Skywalker Land Speeder, the TIE Dagger, Resistance X-Wing, and then we get a couple of busts. We have the Stormtrooper and Boba Fett bust. And then another item not listed, I guess, are we supposed to assume that if this list is accurate, that vacant spot left, is that another UCS set, you think?
I would if it's on this list, I would probably not. Lego's kind of trended towards putting the UCS sets out on May the 4th and in October. So I don't assume that the UCS set would be a part of that January wave of sets, which I believe is what's supposed to be.
And you're a fan of how they've been releasing them. I mean, you mentioned the May the 4th trend. We've gotten the Millennium Falcon in recent years. Now we have the Star Destroyer that just dropped. What's your take on the recent approach here from UCS? Let's give them a lot of pieces. Let's charge them $700, and let's let these sets sell out in 24 hours or less.
So I mean, it's been a little controversial, and I can understand the perspective from them. Like the Millennium Falcon and the Star Destroyer were before the last 3 years. The original versions of those sets were super popular, super rare, super expensive. These are sets that people would kind of been begging for Lego to release at some point. So I mean, $800 is obviously a lot of money. But the Millennium Falcon, before they released the original one that came out in 2007, maybe would have cost you, I don't know, like $1,500 on eBay. So it is nice to see them kind of putting these previously super rare sets, updating them and making them not as inaccessible as they were before. It is kind of funny to see like in hindsight though. Like I mean, I guess people never truly know what they want because now you see a lot of people saying like, where are the new sets? Why so many re-releases? But I mean, 3 years ago that totally wasn't the case. Like people were clamoring for a re-release of the Star Destroyer or a re-release of the Millennium Falcon. So I for one am happy with anything that can help us circumvent dealing with people charging absurd prices on eBay. I'd much rather play in only slightly absurd price from Lego when it comes to those big rare sets.
I think you have a lot of great points. My only knock about the Falcon was the fact that this lavish decoration on the outside, but then the interior, they couldn't find a way to actually give you hallways. They had to use stickers to showcase the hallway.
I don't know if you've seen it. I built a custom Falcon, and it's literally sitting right over there. It has a full interior, and it was so funny too because the rumors when I built that the year that I built it, there were rumors that there was going to be a new big Millennium Falcon. But I just decided, you know what, like I don't expect Lego to put interior in it. I would just build mine. Mine actually does have the hallways and everything. And if Lego were to release a set like that, it'd probably get up to around like $1,100, $1,200 because promises is something like that would require. So I'm totally with you. Like I'm all for interior. That's why I don't own the new Falcon. I decided mine. But I can sympathize with them a little bit because I'll be sure about this. But the biggest reason that it's not as simple as just putting an interior in the Millennium Falcon because the interior we actually see for the Falcon is literally big fit in a scaled Millennium Falcon. So there's a lot of like weird things you have to do with the exterior to get interior to actually fit in it. So it's not as simple as like just put interior in there. Star Wars does that sometimes. Like the inside of the ships actually being bigger than the outside that we see if they're scaled the same.
And I can attest to that because I have the UCS Slave 1, and I can tell you that pretty much on the inside of that, it's all like support. It's like Technic pieces. Even the video with the UCS Star Destroyer coming out, you see a lot of that in there. I mean, it's nice to go, I wish, there we go. I love that set, man.
Me too, man.
But it's one of those things where, you wish that it had the interior, but then you're sitting there going, well, how does that impact the overall stability of the entire ship?
Exactly.
The outside of it. You're trying to sell the appearance to it, and in general, the UCS ships, I mean, they're not meant to be played with. I mean, they're strictly a display piece. Like. My niece wants Boba Fett Slave 1. She's like, well, I want one like Uncle's. And I'm like, that's not, it's kind of heavy. You wouldn't want it,
Yeah.
Well, we have talked about the Legos, the rumor Legos for next year, and we're talking about one of your mocks right now, Jay. But let's talk about the one that's actually really timely with the Mandalorian. Jesse, go ahead.
The Razor Crest. I got asked, so Mandalorian drops, you see the ship, you see all the promos and everything. Was that something where you're like, I have to build it?
Oh yeah.
Is it fully interiored?
So there's an interior on it, and that's something that I kind of had to do some guesswork on because we didn't really see a ton of it starting out. Like there just weren't very many pictures of it other than that one shot in the trailer of the three carbonite people kind of sitting in the back. So there was room for an interior, so I put that in there. Currently I'm actually redesigning it to be more accurate to what we saw on screen. So I added the vac tubes, the ladder that goes up to the cockpit, the bed that sits, I guess, right next to the toilet, which is great. Imagine that toilet bed right next to it. So I'm kind of doing some modifications to make it a little bit more accurate. But at the beginning, I knew I had photos of the outside, and I was like, I can probably build a decent enough model, and then once I saw more of the interior, I can modify it accordingly. And it's been so fun. I just love the design of that vehicle.
I just thought this was absolutely hilarious because last night David told me, he's like, yeah, by the way, we've got an interview with Jay, and I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. And then I was just kind of in my recommendations, your mocker, for the Razor Crest was on there, and I was like, it's just like, this is like, it's all coming together.
Yes, yeah, it's great.
Now, do you feel that this is a strong candidate for like a future official Lego build? Like an official set, coming in the future?
Lego ideas, man.
So that's the thing, right? I would say. I think there's no precedent really for it, right? Because we've never had a live action Star Wars TV show. I think that starting off, the reception to it has been so great that there is a strong possibility. But there is still like an element of Lego that's kind of like the movies get precedence, and then everything else just kind of falls in line depending on whatever the heck they want to do with it. So I wouldn't be shocked if we got a set of it at some point, but also would be shocked if we didn't get a set of it. Just because of how Lego has treated some of the Star Wars materials we've got that weren't like directly connected to the film. And I think the other part of that is, I mean, Lego kind of plans and sets many years in advance. So I mean, it maybe would be a bit of a risk for them to be like, let's do this $100 set for the Razor Crest. It's a pretty big ship. And then unfortunately, the show comes out years later, and it's like no one really likes it. So I mean, this could be something we see many years down the line, but I'm not super confident that we'll see a Lego set of this in the next couple of years.
Real quick though, before we go on to the next thing, I want to ask though, having seen more of the Razor Crest in the first 2 episodes of The Mandalorian, is there anything with your mock that you would change?
So the biggest thing that I kind of didn't really know, and this is something actually I'm changing, is that there's a door on both sides of it. So here I have a door right there on the side, but I didn't have a door on the other side. So I'm currently adding that second door. Other than that, there's once again run into that interior issue where it's like there's not actually enough space on the inside of it to put everything on the inside of it. So I'm kind of making choices as to what I decide to add to it. Like I would love to add his little like gun case, that the guy from the first episode of Ben. But there's not enough for that to have that as well as his personal carbon chain.
You're breaking this Mando's heart. Weapons are religion.
There's a bunch of stuff in there, so I'm like selectively choosing what best is the best for the space inside of there.
Gotta love that carbon phrasing chamber in there too. Well, that ship is massive, and RichBoyJhae just showed that to us on screen, which was awesome. We were showing a clip from one of your YouTube videos highlighting that ship, but the scale of your mocks get larger. Let's talk about Vardos. Battlefront 2 game drops a couple years ago. You decide you're up to the challenge. I'm going to build a planet mock. And this is outrageously impressive. And just can you first talk about how you went about deciding how you would bring Vardos to Lego?
So Vardos is one of those things that when I first played it in the game, I was like, I'm building this. It was just a foregone conclusion at that point. Yes, I'm going to be building this. In terms of trying to design it, it was a lot of like putting the game on the easiest setting and literally just running out on the map and like having my character sit there and just looking around. I have no doubt that I have explored that map more than anyone. Like I pushed the boundaries trying to see how far out of like immediate game zone I could go, just to get like certain angles of things that you wouldn't just kind of running through the map ordinarily. And it was such a fun process because most of the time I'm building something from a film, right? So you're really just reduced to stills from the actual film, which is kind of what the director wants you to see, and then maybe some behind the scenes shots. But with this, I felt I had so much freedom to kind of go around the map and really get perfect angles on everything I wanted to build. Like it really minimize the amount of guesswork that it had to figure out. Like this is what this building looks like, but I don't really know what the other side looks like. No, I can pretty much see everything I wanted to see for this build, and that made it, I guess, a lot more fun and less stressful to build because you don't have to put in so much guesswork or try to scour the internet for photos. Like everything's just right there in the game, right in front of you.
You know, we're looking at a video right now on your YouTube channel, and it's the Empire detaining some folks there against the wall. And I'd like to talk now about just the scale of some of these buildings. And Jordan, if we can just kind of fast forward through this video a little bit and find some of the larger scale buildings to kind of accompany this conversation with. Jay, how do you go about building these massively sized buildings? Because I think that's what allows the immersive, like, when you're watching your build videos and seeing you assemble these structures, I feel like it's a lot more immersive. It's a lot more believable because these things are just towering over your minifigures. It does all feel to scale.
Yeah, so that's something that I don't really feel like it's something I do purposefully. It honestly just always kind of seems that it turns out that way. Like I don't. Some of the things I kind of look at from the big picture, but I feel like ultimately boils down to like how will this look next to a figure. So I'll kind of design, how it like just maybe the lowest portion of the building and figure out what might that look next to a minifigure, and then I'll just build up until I think it looks tall enough, and then by the time I'm like, I have a building like a foot and a half or 2 feet, or in the case of the big tower on Bardo's like 5 or 6 feet tall. So it's for me it's not super overwhelming. It's just a matter of like, starting from the subsection, then kind of scaling that accordingly as I need to go up. One of the most difficult things about building these MOCs is really, I mean, space. As you can tell, like you just need a lot of space to do it in general. But I allot myself a certain amount of tables, and then I'll basically try to draw a blueprint of where should certain things go, and then it becomes readjusted whenever I'm trying to actually build those things. And I realize, like this thing kind of more space to breathe because it's next to a bunch of other things, and you don't want them to overwhelm each other. So you end up making like more tables, I guess. So it's really just a matter of like starting from a small portion of it, and then making sure everything relative to each other looks good. So that's kind of my perspective on that.
Sounds good. And Jay, real quick, if you have the YouTube stream up right now, we're being told that there might be an echo. So if you have the YouTube stream up by chance, if you could exit out of that.
I don't have the YouTube stream up. I have Skype up.
Interesting. Okay, well there you have it. We had a couple of your followers in the live chat asking about that. So at least everyone knows we're still continuing to work on that. Hey, so I guess the next thing I would Jesse, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did actually. So when you're like planning out one of these MOCs and everything, you mentioned you explored this map probably more than anybody probably should in the game.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm interested, like, so, there's a certain color scheme that you see. I mean, like, are these parts that you just had on hand just from accumulating over the years of collecting Lego, or did you have to, like, get on, like, BrinkLeak or something and, like, source some of those colors out? Was that a difficult process to do, or?
So conveniently enough, the color Cuban Bardos was actually something that, as a Star Wars builder, was very fitting to my collection. Like when I build when you're a Star Wars builder, you pretty much come to expect you're going to amass a big collection of light grays, dark grays, light grays and dark grays. There's a lot of Star Wars. Sometimes you get white. Sometimes you might get black. It's mostly light grays and dark grays. So there was actually two builds that I did for this that really helped with just the parts color. Like I did create right before this mod.
Okay.
And just from thinking about it, you might say, oh, like it's a lot of white and red. But the big cave was a lot of dark gray. It was a lot of dark gray. And then even before that, when I built Scarif, there was a big citadel there, which is a bunch of dark gray. So it's seeming like those mock decisions I made beforehand are kind of benefiting me in the long run because Star Wars kind of keeps a mostly similar color palette. Like even I'm doing Starkiller base now. A lot of the parts from Bardos and from Scarif are covered. I guess kind of moving over to those because it's light gray, dark gray, and then in the case of crate, it's a lot of white snow. So I try to keep that into consideration. Like if I decide to build something, it's probably going to be large scale. Do the current parts that I have put me at a position where I won't need to buy so many parts for colors to accomplish a certain build. So it's nice that Star Wars keeps things mostly simple in that regard.
Well, hey, we've spent quite a bit of time on your last large mock. Can you give us an update on Starkiller Base here?
Yeah. So Starkiller Base is going well. I think I probably have about 45% of it done. I have basically the main stage area where Hux is giving his speech, and the stormtroopers are kind of around that. I'm currently just working on building up the mountains around the stage, as well as another one of the turbo lasers that sits on either side of the stage. And surprisingly enough, that's still going to be half of the build. My ideal when I was conjuring up with my build was like it's going to be half of that speech area, maybe like a fourth of the actual base interior of that, and then the other fourth was going to be the oscillator building with a trench that leads up to it that the rebels end up blowing up at the end of the film. So I've worked so much on that mock. If I just presented it as is, it would look like a complete mock. But I'm really ambitious in trying to encapsulate every single scene in Starkiller Base in this mock.
Now I got to ask: are you spending a lot of time on that map in the game just to get the different angles and for the build?
So Starkiller Base is a weird one, right? So with Bardos, it was a story mission, so I could spend as much time as I wanted on the map. With Starkiller Base, I think they changed this recently, but I know when I was looking for reference material, you can only access that outside area for online multiplayer. I don't have multiplayer on my PlayStation, so that's something that was really annoying to me. Like I would have liked it if they just made it where you could do those maps as a single player. I think they changed this very recently. But I ran into the same issue with Crate. Like you could play inside of it, but you couldn't play outside of Crate out of multiplayer. So you'd see as that guy when I had multiplayer running around the map, just trying to get photos of TM6, and people were just killing me. And I'm just like, let me get these photos. Like anyone who's listening right now, if you see me running around the map multiplayer and Battlefront, I swear I don't want to kill anyone. I'm just trying to get mock photos. So that was really a big challenge when it came to Crate, and a bit of a challenge with Starkiller Base. But now that I have most of the exterior done, it's not as big of a deal.
What is the one lesson that maybe you learned from Vardos, previous larger mocks? What's a lesson learned that's really helping you succeed here with your Starkiller mock?
Light. So I don't know if you showed it on the video yet, but Vardos was the first time I extensively included lights in a mock. It's almost like builds. Vardos you see where it's just like the Lego pieces, and then there's Vardos with the lights in the room and the mock lights on, and it's just incredible. It's such a unique experience that you don't really get at that scale, especially you have these large buildings in a Star Wars context, and there's lights all the way through it. So now that's kind of my standard. I'm like, if I want to build something, like it has to have lights. With Starkiller, it hasn't been the case because most of what I've built has been outside. But now that I'm moving more towards the interior of the base, I'm definitely going to be including lights.
Wonderful. Well, hey, man, we've really enjoyed our time together on this Sunday talking about Star Wars Legos. Lego Star Wars. You can't mix that up. People will grill you. Hey, but we made a promise, man. We said we'd have you for the... have you to the TV for the kickoff of the Texans game. Before we let you go, though, where's the best place for fans to follow you? Because people are blowing up in the live chat. They freaking love your work. So where's the best way to follow you?
Yeah, so I'm on YouTube, youtube.com/RichBoyJhae. Also Instagram, I post a lot of like incremental updates on just various things I'm working on. So that's also RichBoyJhae. Everything's RichBoyJhae. That's Rich BOYJHAE. I'm on Twitter as well. I'm not super good about updating Twitter, but if that's your thing, I have one. And yeah, those are the three main places you can find me.
All right, hey man, thank you so much for joining us on this Sunday. It has been a lot of fun. Enjoy your day and go Texans.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Take care, guys.
See you soon.
See you soon,
RichBoyJhae joining us on Beyond the Blast Doors, episode 74. And what a great conversation. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to talk all things Mandalorian. It's a spoiler conversation. You've been warned. We'll be right back.
All wings report in. Brand new Beyond the Blast Door collector pins are now in stock. Help spread the word about the Beyond the Blast Door Star Wars conversation by picking up a brand new exclusive show pin. Pins are only $8. Order and pay online at BeyondTheBlastDoors.com. Movies, TV, comics, toys, cosplay. Beyond the Blast Doors, a Star Wars conversation. All wings.
On a Sunday morning, episode 74 of Beyond the Blast Doors. I wonder if that throws people when they listen to the podcast version of our show and they're like, we're back. And then you're listening maybe in your car and you're like, I've been here the entire time. Great time. And thanks again to RichBoyJhae for joining us on the live show. A lot of really fascinating insight to how he goes about doing his thing. And of course, be sure you follow him on his YouTube channel as well as on Twitter and Instagram. Let's talk about The Mandalorian. You're seeing it you're seeing it right now on your screen. I mean, that is the spoiler when we're talking about The Mandalorian, Jesse, is that we have a baby unknown. It looks a lot like a Yoda.
For the sake of this conversation, and from what I'm saying on Twitter, baby Yoda. Not Yoda, but that's what how I've been referring to it. And wow, just where do we begin for this? I mean, like, obviously episode 1.
No, let's start here. Let's talk about the character. Who is the Mandalorian and the character that we have come to meet here in these first 2 episodes? Because I will tell you a shocker here is I thought these episodes were an hour. I was surprised to see the first one was only, I think, 37 minutes, and then the second one was, I think, around 32 minutes. So I thought we were going to get like a 50-minute, 55-minute episode, so that did catch me off guard, but we have learned quite a few things about who this character is. And right off the bat, he is ruthless. There's no better way to start this series than that first sequence where he cuts a guy in half with a door, blasts another, stabs a guy in his back. It was pretty intense, and it set the tone that this is not Star Wars Resistance. This is The Mandalorian. This is PG-14. This is gonna be fun. And so let's go through the list. I would say that he is skilled with a weapon.
Definitely.
He is witty. He has a dry sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
We know that he has a fear of droids. And it answers a question that we had when we watched the trailer, which was, why are we getting flashbacks to the Clone Wars? It seems like every time a droid comes up, Mandalorian is unhappy. And it's probably because those flashbacks show that his family, or at least his village, was completely destroyed by the Separatists in the Clone Wars. And so he seems to hold that against it, whether it's the droid that pulls up at the ferry to take him and his bounty over to the Razor Crest in Chapter 1, or if it's IG-11 showing up to try and take down the Trandoshans. Like, he does not like these droids. Did that play well with you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. But it also tells us a lot more about our hero, or anti-hero.
Yeah, because like he uses he thanks a guy at one point. Like, he says thank you, and then like he can't ride a blurg to save his life. So that felt like it felt like it humanized the Mandalorian in a way.
Yeah. So one of the things that this tells us is, especially we get a lot about his background actually from episode 1 is he's a foundling, which is basically an orphan, and he's I guess you'd say he's not native born, to like Concord Dawn or Mandalore, but he's been adopted into this culture.
Mm-hmm.
The flashbacks that we have been seeing, that we've kind of pieced together from this, gives us an idea of the character's age. So you know that he's maybe I don't know, let's say 5, or maybe a little like 5 to 8 range.
Mm-hmm.
We know that the Clone Wars ended roughly 18 to 19 years before the Battle of Yavin.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you kind of fast forward, there's what, two years between, each of the original trilogy, and then we're 5 years after Return of the Jedi, and that places him, I'd say, age range rise, I'd say late 30s, early 40s is where he's supposed to be.
We also learned that he's not the only Mandalorian, which I think is
true.
really fascinating.
Huge for me.
So I don't know why I thought this. For some reason, I was like, he's the last Mandalorian. Maybe that's because, like, subconsciously we've been thinking about the Last Jedi for a few years, and so I'm like, oh, the Mandalorians have to all be wiped out too. But in Star Wars Rebels, there's several Mandalorians still going around. I mean, that culture is still strong. So yeah, I felt really stupid when I'm seeing this scene play out, and you're seeing multiple Mandos walking around in this cave. They're hiding away, much like the Empire. The Empire is hiding away too. So what was that like for you to? Well, I guess the better question is, do you dig how the Mandalorian gets his armor? We're getting the Beskar. We're melting it down. I love the armor. That seems like a really cool character.
I knew that there were going to be other Mandalorians in the show.
You knew? Oh,
I did,
okay.
because of Celebration.
Oh, that's right, because you were in that panel.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. See, I wasn't in the panel.
But even then, it was it's so quick in those early sneak peeks that most people didn't even catch it. So actually seeing that so early, it tells us a lot here. And there's also a few things that I'm wondering too. The Beskar that he gets, just as a down payment, and then he goes, to basically, I want to say the clan hideout.
Yeah.
And he's talking to the armorer, and she's saying this was like mined during the Great Purge, and it's got me wondering, like, are we talking about Order 66 and the Jedi Purge? Because we also know that there was, the Civil War at the end of the Clone Wars on Mandalore, which we're going to see more of that in February with the final season.
Right.
So that'd be an interesting tie-in if it's some sort of more devastating event that takes place on Mandalore. We also know that the Empire laid down the law basically for a number of years on Mandalore via rebels, and then the clans are united, as season 4 of Rebels, and so I mean, does the Empire crack down even more? And is our Mandalorians kind of scattered? Are they dispersed across the universe?
Well, let's talk about the Empire, because I think we've kind of identified who the Mandalorian is, and of course we want you commenting down in the live chat right now. If you're watching us at live, maybe you're watching us in the rewind, still comment down below, but let us know your take. How do you define the Mandalorian 2 episodes in? And the Empire is probably one of the things that excited me the most about this series, because I really wanted to see what that fractured Empire looked like. And I talked about this a little bit on Streaming Star Wars on Friday night, was the fact that I wanted to see, how the Empire kind of existed. Do they rule? And the Empire that we've been exposed to so far in The Mandalorian, it's hiding away as well. You have like this old grizzled Werner Herzog, like Imperial diplomat that hides in this shack. And that's my assumption. He's a diplomat. He has this big medallion on his chest. But the stormtroopers just look gross. They look dirty. Maybe the armor isn't even meant for their body size. It looks kind of hodgepodge together. So they're scattered. They're trying to hold on to. And I'm excited. I think of all of this, we haven't even seen Moff Gideon and the troops that he commands yet.
And the one thing that reminded, Star Wars has always referenced a number of things. The old spaghetti westerns, World War I, World War II, and even this is, him walking into that room and seeing the beat up stormtrooper, stormtroopers in their armor, and just kind of like the rundown. It's strongly reminiscent of when the Nazis were on the run. The Nazi war criminals. Yes. There was like these holdouts. They were hunted. Obviously with no remorse. I mean, why not? We also know from the Aftermath books that the Rebellion or the New Republic actually utilized bounty hunters to go after these Imperial war criminals. So this is a very just interesting. This is one of my favorite time areas that they're finally exploring, because in the old EU, we kind of had some of this. And now it's like we're actually getting it on the big screen, and it's just like, yes.
And it's cinematic too. I mean, we're watching a TV show, and I know I complained about the show, like the actual like length of an episode, but this feels like I'm watching a Star Wars movie. It doesn't feel like I'm watching like it's not like how a Big Bang Theory episode. The production level is significantly higher. So it's been a lot of fun to watch. We mentioned Werner Herzog's character, another character that I want to talk about there, and this is I don't consider this a spoiler, even though that we said that this is a safe zone to talk spoilers for The Mandalorian. Dr. Pershing has a very interesting logo on his shoulder.
He does.
And it connects to the Camino and cloners. This is the patch that we see on the shoulder of the clones at Topeka City in Attack of the Clones. And a Twitter user made that connection, 25, 30 minutes after the episode dropped on Disney+, which, by the way, depending on where you were, Disney+ actually became available earlier than Tuesday.
I watched episode 1 at roughly 2:30 in the morning Tuesday because it wasn't. I used my PC to watch because I don't we have TVs in the house, but my parents own them. So it was like, oh, come on, just launch it, for everything. And then I saw a tweet that the Apple app had gone. So I watched the first time I watched it was via my phone at 2:30 in the morning. I had a very long day at work, just because it's truck day. But then it was like racing home, and then I can't tell you how many times I think I watched the bulk of my watchings of episode 1 probably Tuesday.
I'm gonna be very honest with you. I've probably watched the first episode 8 times now, whether that's directly focused on it or having it play in the background. I'm just gonna be very honest with you about that. And I smoked a 12-pound turkey on Saturday outside. I mounted my TV to my fence, and I had The Mandalorian playing outside while I smoked my 12-pound turkey for Friendsgiving that no one showed up to.
I was working.
Oh, man. Rip. Okay, so I mentioned the cloner. Yeah, I think Dr. Pershing is my character that I'm most intrigued by right now because of that connection. I would really be fascinated if that plays a role with this bounty that Werner Herzog wants dead or alive. Dr. Pershing clearly wants alive. I almost thought for a moment the connection I was going to make was I thought that he was like the son of Dr. Vuri or whatever, the guy who created the Blue Shadow virus in Clone Wars, but it is not. It's different names. Completely had that wrong in my head, so I'm glad I double-checked that before I sent that out into the Twitterverse. But the idea that maybe the goal here is to clone the bounty, which we find is Baby Unknown is what I think we should call him on our channel. Baby Unknown, which is the unknown species of Yoda and Yaddle. I don't buy into this whole idea. People are like, well, did Yaddle and Yoda hook up? And that's gross. Let's not go there. And then it's like, well, they could have had a love child. It's like, no, please stop having this conversation.
Well, and this is the thing I want to. We know that the species is long lived, okay? And even at the beginning, this thing is 50 years old. That places its birth.
Did it surprise you when it was revealed?
Oh, I about cried.
Really?
Yeah, because it was like, oh my god, they're really going to kind of explore this. But then it was like the whole, because it's like, and then him kind of sticking the finger out, and the baby Yoda,
doing the finger thing. It's
yeah,
like the Jesus and the man, humanity touching.
But then looking back, okay, so we got this guy, he's wearing a symbol that's linked with the Camino cloning facilities. And I'm sitting here going, okay, so why are the remnants of the Empire wanting this? Obviously for science experiments. I mean, we know that they're long-lived, and it makes me wonder, are they doing this to try to maybe they're going to try to clone, Palpatine, maybe they don't know that, obviously he's survived somehow.
Something I think about is from the Clone Wars, and it goes along with this idea that the Emperor was trying to find Force-sensitive, infants and turn them into agents for the Empire. And it's a point also brought up by Holochronicles, our friends over Andy and Josh over at Holochronicles podcast. Check them out. If you want a show that's just all about Star Wars collectibles, there you go. Shameless plug for them. They're talking about it. It's season 2, episode 3, I think. And it's fascinating. And so I wonder if this is like the continued train of thought is, okay, to be able to rule the galaxy, let's get some Force-sensitive beings and enslave them. We'll clone them and enslave them, and they'll help us redeem control of the galaxy.
That, and at the same time, maybe they're still, they know that, okay, the Empire has kind of taken a massive blow here, but we don't want the Jedi to rebuild.
Right.
So that could be part of this, too, where they're like, no, we're still going to try. If we know if there's a Force-sensitive, we're either going to, hunt it down or, like you said, convert it or indoctrinate it, new Inquisitors or something.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, though, back to the baby. Birth-wise, I would say before Phantom Menace. That's just the timeline that we're looking at here. And then, I've been seeing people like, oh, yeah, Yaddle, and it's like, no, because at this point, Yoda is a Jedi Master on the Council, and we know that the Jedi, they didn't have relationships, they didn't get married, as far as canon goes. Now we know that there's instances, obviously Kanan, had a child.
Correct.
But at that point, I mean, Kanan kind of went through a point to where there was no longer, a guideline. He was a Padawan, when Order 66 happened, and now he's just trying, survive. He didn't even consider himself a Jedi really anymore.
I think there's a lot of possibilities with it, and I'm excited to see what happens. My first thought goes to, we don't know what happens in the future, but we haven't seen a baby Yoda or an older Yoda type thing running around in the movies. So I guess baby unknown gets killed at some point. We're just not sure what happens.
Don't say that. Gosh,
here's my thing though. IG-11 works really well. Taika Waititi voicing the character. I wasn't sure how I would get along with that character, but IG-11 is badass.
I love that whole moment there because
they kill 40 people.
There's a clunkiness to how the IG unit is moving around, which is very much enjoyable. Because you see like in the original trilogy you see IG-88 and they're just like very rigid. The head maybe moves. You don't really get an idea how these things move, and obviously they're the whole head can spin around. He's got multiple eyes, so he's looking all over the place. It's just kind of hilarious to watch, but then you're like, you get that droid feeling, like this kind of clunky robot, which was fun.
Yeah.
And then the personality, like commencing self-destruct, like repeatedly, was just hilarious.
Well, yeah, it was, and the chemistry worked well, and I think that touches on a larger thing. I think the humor of the Mandalorian, both in Chapter 1 and 2 that we've gotten, has really felt like Star Wars, and it's been something that I was really fascinated with. When you have a Favreau, when you have a Filoni at the helm of this project, I was really excited to see how they would approach, and it was just like timing and sarcasm and just natural humor. It was organic. It wasn't forced. I always use the example of the Yo Mama joke at the beginning of The Last Jedi. It took me out of that movie for the first 15 minutes. I was really annoyed. It did not work. It doesn't work in this kind of story. But a lot of the humor, even that first line, I can take you in warm or I can take you in cold. That was kind of funny. It made me chuckle. The whole. Did it feel kind of Star Wars Rebels, where the ferry driver, drops him off at the Razor Crest and starts taking off, and he gets eaten by that creature from down below the ice? Yeah, a little bit, but it was also kind of funny. I think of, here we go, Nick Nolte's character, the Ognot. I think of, to me, probably my favorite character so far.
Yeah.
How many people do you know now on social media that are running around going, I eat my vegetables because I want to grow big and tall. I have spoken. Everything is I have spoken.
I like this take of an Ugnaught over what we've seen altogether. Empire Strikes Back, we see him, a couple of them working the carbon freezing chamber, and then the disposal systems, below Cloud City. They're speaking a different language, where Nick Nolte's character is speaking common or basic.
Right.
Which is kind of refreshing, because I really didn't see this alien species as a species of high intelligence.
No,
frankly,
nope.
And even Rebels didn't really help convey this, because you get the episode where they're stealing the Y-wings before they're getting destroyed.
Yes.
They're servicemen, and and there's the episode prior with Hondo. They're rescuing Hondo, and his jail cell companion, just kind of freaks out and gets himself killed, and you don't really just have respect for the species. And then you get Nick Nolte's Ugnaught, and it kind of just like
this, like an Obi-Wan almost type. Like,
it's
here to
mentor
mentor him and teach him how to move
Here's
along.
this guy that's making, he's living on the Outer Rim. He's basically a farmer. You can tell that he's got skill, technology skill, obviously. Just from the his goggles and what he's wearing and all that. And
Well, let's talk
and then
about
just personalities.
Let's talk about the alien species now, because I think it opens up a more interesting conversation in the fact that you did have some species speaking in alien tongues with subtitles, and I thought that worked really well.
Yes.
And I think the more of that, the better, because, and I agree with this, the guy that he picks up, the Mandalorian picks up in Chapter 1, it felt like a Star Trek character, not much more a Star Wars character, and we're getting more unique dialects and subtitling in Star Wars. I mean, we got Conjure Club in Force Awakens. That was really nice. Yeah, I guess Greedo gets subtitles in A New Hope. That whole fiasco we don't need to get into. But George Lucas got a hold of it one more time. I just want him to be happy. So I think that if we see more of that, don't you think that will help immersiveness as well with this series?
Oh, yeah. The interesting thing is, especially in that opening scene, Mando, he says it in such a tone that it's almost derogatory.
I think it is.
That's
the point.
And it's just like, hey, now watch yourself, But it's just like, I'm like, well, I'm a Mando,
Oh gosh. Well, jumping in the live check real quick. Bake the Snake says that he didn't love I Have Spoken first. He says it grew on me. Didn't love it at first, but now it works. Fremy says never a moment thought an Ognot could be so cool. Khalil, I don't know how to say his name, but that's the character's name. Khalil is a very cool character. Very nice. Yeah, and I like Nick Nolte just absolutely crushes it. So we've gone through pretty much all of Chapter 1 and some of Chapter 2. We are coming up to the hour mark here for episode 74. So I feel like before we get out of this, we have to talk about disintegration, because we have forever since Empire Strikes Back. The first time we saw Empire Strikes Back, Jesse, no disintegration. Like, we heard Vader say that to Boba Fett. We're like, well, what the hell does that mean? I mean, we get the concept.
Let me tell you something. I am pro disintegrations. They're amazing.
So when I was watching this scene unfold, and basically what happens, you've seen the show, the Jawas basically start scrapping the Razor Crest while the Mandalorian is learning how to ride a blurg and failing. And so he gets mad, the Mandalorian, and so he whips out his rifle, and then he just starts picking off these Jawas, and it kind of felt like like that buck hunting game where like the buck comes running across and you gotta pick it off.
Yeah,
kind of felt like that. It also kind of reminded me of that Killer Ewok mode on Battlefront 2, where
Let's not talk about that. I have nightmares of that.
Oh, I'm sorry. So it was just really funny to see him just lighting. And he kills 3 or 4 of them, and then there's this whole sequence where he's trying to climb up the sandcrawler, which I thought was really cool to get that close to the sandcrawler, and he's punching Jawas and he's throwing them down to the ground, and a funny moment where he gets all the way up to the top, and there's 14 Jawas with their rifles ready,
guns basically,
and he falls to the ground. Which, here's my question: how the hell did those stormtroopers ransack that the sandcrawler in A New Hope? Because those Jawas put up a hell of a fight, man.
Those sandtroopers did have I want to say a
heavy artillery,
like heavy blaster,
because they can't aim. Jawas seemed pretty efficient. Yeah. They're throwing pipes and stuff.
The interesting thing that we did learn about the Mandalorian's rifle is that it takes cartridges. Mm-hmm. He's taking cartridges off his bandolier to load it. It's really an interesting weapon. I want to know more about the weapon, but I mean, I think we'll need to see the rest of the season to get more how it works.
I think a good point too is it allows violence, but it doesn't show gore. Like, it's a great way to have violence in a series that is available to a younger audience. So when you say it's a PG-14 series, you're like, well, I wanted this to be pretty gritty. Well, you know what? Disintegration is actually pretty gritty, but it doesn't visually maybe harm a younger viewer.
Fast forward just maybe a minute before he's scaling the side of the sandcrawler. My favorite moment when he's slinging the shots down there is that the Jawas are all panicking, and you get the one who's absolutely just going nuts, and he's just shooting he's got his stun guns and whatever, and he's just shooting all over. And the Mando I was like, he's gonna shoot him, and I'm like, yes.
I feel like we've really covered the gambit here, and again, thank you so much for joining us here for episode 74 of Beyond the Blast Doors. I guess I feel like we've pretty much talked about everything we could talk about these 2 episodes. So I guess looking ahead, what do we anticipate happening here with episode 3? I mean, is this a situation where Mando's going to get this thing back to Werner Herzog's character, or
that's what I'm wondering, because obviously he had a problem with the IG unit executing it, because he executed IG-11 pretty quickly. He obviously doesn't want it to get hurt. I mean, yes, it's a bounty, but I'm just kind of sitting here going like, man, part of me is going like, I don't see him turning it in. Like, I feel like he feels like it's more important than that, and considering that it saved his life. We didn't really brush on that. There's a moment where, Space Rhino is essentially getting ready to kill the Mando.
Mm-hmm.
And, he is on his knees. He's got his combat knife out, and he's ready to die. And this baby saves him with the Force. And he doesn't understand it. This is the other thing, is the Outer Rim territories.
Baffled.
Jedi weren't really a common thing in the Outer Rims. So this is the first time he's probably seeing the Force. He doesn't understand what's happening.
Or did he see maybe Yoda when he was having his village attacked by the Separatists in the Clone Wars?
Well, who knows? But
there could be that connection.
It's just a very interesting thing. I think he's intrigued by his bounty, this alien, this child. But I think that this is kind of his soft spot. And I think what it is, I kind of feel like he's going to do something to where he's going to draw the attention of, we see like the Death Troopers and trailers. He's going to kind of pull down the wrath of the remnant of the Imperial Army.
And I think he's also going to upset the Guild. I think maybe the Guild has to turn on the Mandalorian for not handing over the bounty as part of the deal. And also, I kind of I was getting annoyed. I was like, why are we always making the assumption that we see a character that looks like another character that can use the Force, so we automatically assume that character can use the Force? Well, lo and behold, the little infant can use the Force, and it takes a lot out of him.
I almost felt like it almost killed him. Maybe.
Oh, it looks like he just took a nap. He's just napping.
I mean, he went kind of comatose there for basically a day or two.
He did go a little comatose. Episode 74, Beyond the Blast Doors. It has been a lot of fun to speculate and just kind of talk about our favorite moments of The Mandalorian, episodes 1 and 2, of course, on Disney+. 10 million subscribers on Disney Plus in its first 24 hours. They project 103 million subscribers on Disney Plus by 2025. So I think it really speaks to the testament of Bob Iger and Alan Horn when they say that this is the future of Disney in general. They're not lying. Last night, we ended up putting up our Christmas decorations a little early this year, and we went through all the classic holiday Mickey Mouse, Goofy, Donald Duck cartoons. We put on a couple of the classic Disney movies, and I think that's just how it's going to be. I mean, I remember looking over Amanda and be like, when we have kids, we're going to be able to binge watch Disney Plus from sunrise to sunset, and it's going to be great. And so it sounds like everyone's having a really good experience. I know some people had some lag time early on, but it sounds like overall Disney Plus, The Mandalorian going pretty well for Star Wars fans. Jordan, I don't have a rundown this week, so is there a graphic that I was supposed to queue up here that I don't remember queuing up? I don't know. I think I'm supposed to promote like where you can watch and listen to the podcast. I think that's what I'm supposed to do. Oh, there we go. Yep. Okay. See, I'm behind. Big thanks to RichBoyJhae for joining us live here on episode 74 of Beyond the Blast Doors. Loved his perspective on his MOCs. And again, the Razor Crest, Vardos, Starkiller Base, you can find all that on his YouTube channel. He's also on Twitter and Instagram. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you didn't catch the live show, you can always watch on the rewind on our YouTube channel. But there's also a good chance you listen to our show iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Feel free to join us over there on Patreon, though. As low as $2, we do weekly exclusives where we drop maybe episodes a couple days early. We're always continuing to figure out the best way to treat you right on the Patreon. So be sure you join the Star Wars conversation over there. And also, I guess, while we're doing this, I want to thank you, Jesse, for being back. Glad you're happy and healthy. Jordan is in town. Really appreciate him being here. We have Jesse Stillman now joining us on BeyondTheBlastDoors.com, so be sure you go over there and check all that stuff out. We have a really a growing family here, creating a lot of really great, unique content for the website, and it's a lot of fun to unfold. And if you need some holiday shopping help, maybe for that Star Wars fan in your life, down in the description below, we've included several links to some items that are pretty cool on Amazon right now. They're discounted right now, and they're through our affiliate program. So if you actually go on Amazon and you happen to go through our link to the site, we get a kickback. So it's like a different way that you can support our Star Wars conversation. And there's also, again, there's Patreon. So I've rambled quite a bit. I think it's time we wrap this up. Let's roll the animation. I'm going to keep talking under it because that's how we do it here on Beyond the Blast Doors. We give you this slate. We thank you for watching. We tell you that we'll see you on Sunday. And may the Force be with you.
Thank you for watching Beyond the Blast Doors. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. Beyond the Blast Doors, a Star Wars conversation.